Welcome to the first webinar of UFP 2019-2020 cycle. My name is Tanvi. I'm here with Sudeshna Mitra. Sudeshna is faculty here at IIHS, and she's going to introduce the Urban Fellows program today in this session. Over the next couple of weeks, we have lined a couple of webinars for you where faculty from IIHS is going to be here and speak about the different elements of UFP. We have one session where the fellows are going to be here and you can speak about their experiences and you can ask them any questions. So please tune in, join in for all our webinars, which is Monday and Thursday between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Tune into our social media channels. We have all the information available there. And please send in your applications before 18th of April. So I'm going to hand over to Sudeshna now, and she's going to start the session. She'll take about 20-25 minutes to introduce the UFP, and then you can send in your questions and we'll take in your queries.
Okay, so firstly, welcome to everybody who has signed in. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background into this Urban Fellows program today, and I can't be fully comprehensive about everything, so I welcome all the questions from you. Let me know what you have doubts upon, and I'll be happy to explain the details to you. So firstly, I mean, you may be aware that this is the fourth time that we are running the Urban Fellows program, and it's a fellowship program. This year it's going to run for 10 months, out of which 8 months you will spend in our Bangalore City Campus. We are actually sitting in the City Campus right now. So it's those 8 months is the taught part of the fellowship, which is that you will have classes, you will have Monday to Friday classes. The classes will include sort of lectures, it will include seminars. You will also have a good amount of time that you will spend on the field during those 8 months. At the end of that, you have about 2 months of an internship period in which we are going to help you. We have an extensive sort of a placement process in place now, and we try and place people according to the kind of interest they have, and our fellows have gone on to working in a whole set of public organizations, private consultancies, NGOs, think tanks, research organizations. Some of them have gone on to higher education sort of fields as well, and also across sectors. So if you're interested in housing or transport or water, waste, sustainability questions, disaster risk resilience kind of questions, we try and sort of fit the fellows' interests with the kind of organization, the kind of work that they're doing, so that you get the first taste of sort of what working in that particular sector feels like professionally. And a lot of fellows have sort of used that experience, and that's internship as a stepping stone to kind of get full jobs with either the organizations where they did their internships or in other organizations which are there in the space. So to kind of step back, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the fellowship itself. For the past 3 years, we've actually had some really, really interesting people come through the fellowship, and they come from a lot of different kind of disciplinary backgrounds. We've had artists, architects, journalists, lawyers, engineers, planners, people with social science degrees, like from economics and public policy kinds of backgrounds, people with humanities degrees have come through. And one of the greatest things about the fellowship really is sort of that very interesting cohort that comes together. And every year we keep hearing from the fellows about the amazing experience that they had in learning from one another. So the program actually pushes you a lot to, we encourage you to sort of, sort of engage with what you already know in the context of the urban, but over and beyond that, actually sort of engage with other ways of looking at the urban, because pretty much anything in the urban cannot be looked at from any kind of one disciplinary lens. So, trying to build a complex, interwoven, multidisciplinary sort of approach into understanding urban issues and unpacking them is partly what this program is all about. And it's not that an engineer is going to become a planner, right? Or a person who has an economics background is going to become a lawyer. But what the classroom experience does is that you sit across the room from somebody who has that background, and you see them approaching the same problem with a completely different vocabulary, a completely different sort of an entry point into the program. And that leads to a lot of interesting discussions, some of them not all, sort of the most conducive, in the sense that there is a lot of sort of discussions and debates and fighting that happens between the cohorts, but you learn as a part of that process that here is another way to sort of see that urban problem. And what that prepares is that when people go out into the field, when they start doing their practice or their research, then they become familiar with the vocabulary that a lot of other professionals in the field coming from other disciplinary backgrounds are going to use. So what we do want is people who come in from law backgrounds who start to have conversations with planners, or start to have conversations with architects, or someone who has an economics background, right? So that's what the fellowship is all about. That's one of the richest experiences of the fellowship. Over and beyond that, like I said, we push you a lot in terms of testing your own disciplinary backgrounds, in terms of both like theories and methods that you worked with, but also in terms of ways of seeing, the kinds of analysis you do, the kinds, like whether some of you with certain disciplinary backgrounds will have, familiarity with the field. You would have done field work before, you would have done surveys before. Others would not have, right? But the program tries to get everybody onto the same sort of a platform in terms of, starting to have those conversations and becoming familiar with the field. So we have, the overall program has basically 3 components. The first component is the commons, where we have everybody sort of takes classes together, and it has the elements of, we take you through a whole set of like 6 elements. Planning, social identity, infrastructure, economy, governance, sustainability. Everybody sort of sits through each one of these together. The teaching is complemented by case-based studies, so that even if you're not aware of what, you may know that caste is a huge something that we absolutely have to deal with when we're talking about development in India, or our urban spaces that are emerging, but you may not be familiar about what that looks like when you go to the field. So whatever your disciplinary background, so this, the Commons period is sort of forcing you to engage with these ideas both in the class and engage with the ideas in the field as well through something that we call the practica. After the Commons is done, then we have the electives module. The electives, usually there are 4 sort of sets of electives that you can take, usually out of a choice of about 12 electives. And it is during this time that everybody sort of chooses the direction that they want to move in. And so, so their choices reflect what they want to do in terms of their research, or what they want to do in terms of their practice after they're finished with their fellowship. So, there are 4 sets of electives that they take, at the end of which, and along with the electives, they also do something called projects. And the projects are basically live projects here at IIHS. And some of you would be familiar, but IIHS does a lot of work on the urban sector, ranging from policy work to research work to, even sort of engagements with the city that go beyond the academic. So we have several public events, city scripts, urban lens, urban arc, which is our research conference, and something that we call the urban policy dialogues. These are ways in which we reach out to the city. We bring people in from the city who are working on various kinds of issues into the building. And these are also ways of going beyond the academic. So as a part of your project, you may end up sort of, for example, putting together a podcast on urban issues, or you may help put together a urban dictionary, urban translation, be part of the urban translation project, which, you know, sort of taking sort of key words which are associated with the urban and helping to sort of look at like lots of different Indian languages and making sure that it's not just in English that we are having these conversations. So, I mean, those are just two examples, but there is work in you could work with our media lab. There are people who have helped to put together sort of, you know, urban libraries. How does the urban treat its libraries? What kind of spaces do people have, public spaces that people have to read, to engage? So, you know, there was one project that was sort of fashioned around that. Apart from that, we have projects on all our life projects, whether they're in housing or economy or livelihood questions or disaster resilience. All of those are sort of you know, made available to the fellows, and they work real time on those projects with all of the deadlines, all of the requirements in terms of what they're supposed to produce from it, like reports or, you know, different kind of analysis that may be required. So that also gives you the first taste of making choices, because while we, you know, might know about sort of the ideal or the optimal kind of things that should be done, which takes everything into account, it may still be necessary, given you know, time and the amount of money that you have in terms of the research, to figure out priorities. And this is like the reality of practice. And so the project gives you a sense of how to work well within the kinds of constraints that happen in the practice realm or in the research realm. There's also people who use their project time to work towards research proposals. Like if you want to go into an academic trajectory, then people also take up independent research projects during that time. So at the end of the elective term comes a third component of the fellowship, which is the internship period. We help you a lot through that process in terms of identifying organizations that best fit what you're looking for once you transition out of the fellowship. And I mentioned a little bit when we started about the kinds of organizations and the kind of trajectories that people have had. But that's like kind of the third step, that we take you one step closer to what you want to do post the fellowship. And so that's broadly what the program is sort of, you know, so that's the structure of the program. I just want to say a little bit that the kind of people who come in for the fellowship, we've had like, you know, several like people who can sort of identify into certain kinds of reasons as to why they come to the fellowship. So some of them are, you know, folks who have completely trained or studied in a different discipline, but urban is something that they've always been concerned about, something that they feel like something needs to be done. They've been curious about it. They have been perhaps working on it, but, you know, in an informal sort of a way, not as a part of their jobs. And they're looking for a program which will give them entry or sort of orientation into understanding how to, you know, sort of develop an urban focused practice within their disciplinary background. So for example, you can be a lawyer who wants to work on sort of the kinds of developmental issues that are emerging, you know, challenges that are emerging in our cities, right? You could be an engineer who wants to work a lot more on urban related projects rather than more technical related projects. There is a space for pretty much every single disciplinary backgrounds. I mean, if you look at our cities are actually being run by a whole set of people from different disciplinary backgrounds who are doing work which makes our cities work on an everyday basis. It's just that they don't think of themselves as urban professionals, and they often work within silos of their own disciplinary training and have sort of a very difficult time when they have to sit across, you know, from someone at a table to discuss who comes from a completely different way of looking at the city. And so this fellowship is really sort of, you know, targeting, so that's one set of people, you know, who want to sort of stay within their discipline, you know, work with the discipline that they have already trained in, but they want to get an urban focus in it. The second sort of people who come are people who are looking for a change. we have people who have come from like maybe media professionals, etc., who were not really sure, for example, that if they wanted to continue to be that, or if they wanted to work on something completely different, which was urban oriented. So this fellowship is also meant as sort of an exploratory space for you to figure out if there is other kinds of professional spaces that you would like to occupy, sort of a shifting away from what you have been doing. And that's not to say that people don't fall in like neatly into these categories. I think there's a mix of both. It's also not meant for people who want, I mean, we do want people who want to make a change in the cities, but that we do also understand that practice does not need to only mean that you're working in an organization or an office somewhere. Practice can also mean research. Practice can also mean that you are analyzing our urban problems, that you're working in a think tank, that you're working on policy analysis, that you are perhaps becoming an urban researcher and scholar, or an academic who teaches on urban issues. So all of these are possibilities, and we are like, our sort of paramount interest is to sort of put together a class of sort of really an interesting cohort, as multidisciplinary as possible, and people who are somewhat a little dissatisfied with the way our cities are working right now and would like to be part of the process of rethinking and reimagining what we can actually do as a part of our cities, how we can collaborate, what are the ways in which we need to enter a problem that seems that it is very difficult to enter into. People who will not shy away from talking about politics, people who will sort of realize that there is a political economy when we're talking about urban interventions, people who are curious, like sort of inherently curious and dissatisfied and want to sort of keep working at making things better. So that's kind of the profile of the people. It makes for very interesting discussions. It makes for very interesting kinds of the questions that we get in class. And we like a class that challenges us as well, that will not take a whole set of things that we are saying just because we are saying it, but actually is thinking and analyzing and asking questions in response to it. So from our perspective, that's actually the kind of the cohort that we're looking for. I can tell you a little bit about how we are structured in terms of tuition and scholarships this year. So the program this year has a tuition fee of about 1.25 lakhs. Which covers all of the costs that are there in the program, right? So which includes like your tuition, you will be taken on exposure visits as a part of this thing. All of that's going to be paid for. It's going to include all the costs that you incur during your practica and your projects. It's going to it covers all of those things. It includes like if you're going to produce a film during the fellowship, and you're working with the media lab, it's going to cover those kinds of things as a part of the program as well. But that said, we know that we want to make this program as open to everybody, right? This should not be a barrier as to why you don't come to the program. So please know that we have an extremely generous scholarship program as a part of the fellowship. We will, ask as a part of the application, if you make it into our application, through our application process, if you get selected, financial need is not a barrier for you to be able to complete the program. We will work with you every step of the way to make that possible, via a whole set of scholarships that are available. So, the more details are there on our FAQs. If you have questions, please ask me about the kind of scholarships we have. But like I said, that if you get admission into the program, then you don't have to worry about the financial need part of it. The other thing I just want to kind of quickly say is, okay, the other part is that everybody who gets admission into the program gets free accommodation, which includes food and every other kinds of, laundry and internet and all those kinds of things. It's there in our website, so please take a look. But all of that is taken care of as a part of the fellowship. The only thing that you have to pay is sort of the tuition, and there is also sort of a 10% discount if people, take a look at the details of it. If you have questions, please ask me. I want to end with just this thing about the application process. I know that many of you have already started the process. We've got a whole bunch of registrations already. The application started on the 18th of this month, and it will go on till the 18th of April. So please don't wait till the last minute to put in your applications. The application itself takes a little bit of time because we want to get to know you as people. We don't go by the normal sort of these things about how many, we ask you for your marks and stuff like that, but that's actually not the criteria that we're looking at for admission. So we are much more interested in who you are as people, how you think, how you analyze. So there are 2 sets of essays that you have to write as a part of the application process, which is the most critical part of the application, right? The first one is a personal statement about, we want to understand why you care about the urban, why you want to be part of the fellowship, right? Like what is it that you're looking for from this this program? So which is meant a lot more in terms of your own personal trajectory, where you are, what you want to do. The second one, you have a choice. The second one, you can either write about a problem statement that we give you, and that's meant to sort of understand how you think through a problem, how you analyze a problem. Do you read? Are you familiar with what's being written about in the newspapers about the topic? Are you, sort of keeping up with, are you interested enough in the topic to know what's going on right now with that subject area? So you can either choose to write that, or you can choose to tell us about your involvement with the urban in terms of like work experience. And in this, I don't mean if you have had a formal employment in some organization, that too, but also if you have done volunteer work, if there's stuff that you've been doing on the side, if there is a particular urban concern that you have been involved with so a group or a friends, or we want to hear about that. So because we understand that certain people speak better in terms of the work that they have done, like their work speaks louder than they can write about it themselves. So if that's the case, then tell us about your work, right? And there's a couple of other parts to the application process, like a sample of work, etc. I'm happy to answer questions that you might have about them. But for now, I'm going to stop and I'm going to start taking questions. So you have to type in the questions and we will be able to see them over here, and I will take them as they come. Is there any particular, there are no questions yet, but if there is any particular topic that you want me to talk more about, maybe you can just type that in and I'm happy to speak more about that. I think we have one question right now. Not yet. Okay, and we have one response.
Just read out the question before.
Sure, I will do that. Okay, so we have one question which is saying, what kind of work sample do you expect? So the work sample that we're looking for is, again, like I said, that some people are good in sort of writing and textually describing what they have done. For other people, it's their work that speaks louder, right? So the sample of work that we're looking for is something that tells us about you, what you care about. And remember, the fellowship is about the urban fellowship. So something that is related to work that you have done in the urban sector that showcases your abilities or your care and concern about certain kinds of issues. That's what the work sample is about, because we want to because sometimes the application form itself may be too restrictive for us to understand the breadth of the kind of work that you might have done. So use the work sample as a way to kind of help us understand, your work trajectory a little bit better. What the sample of work is not, it's not your CV. We don't want to see your CV in the work sample. We don't want to see certificates that you have got for doing activity X, Y, or Z. We actually want to see the work. It can be a chapter that you've written. It can be a sort of a media content that you have produced. It can be maps that you have produced. It can be, so it can be multimedia, it can be maps, it can be textuals, it can be photographs. All of those are fine, but architectural drawings, it can, or, you know, the sheets that you have prepared as a part of a project, reports, all of those are fine, but it has to be work that you have done and not that a whole group of other people have done. If it is a group work, then please tell us which part of the work is yours, because this is about understanding you better. So if we get something which a lot of people have done together, we won't get to, like, it doesn't help your application. So I hope that works. We have a few more questions.
The same person at Pitt has asked this question,
so I can finish that. Just a follow-on question from that is some kind of a policy analysis not related to urban. Okay, it's okay. It's not great. If it is a kind of policy analysis where the method that you have used or the kind of way that you've done the analysis helps us understand your abilities a little bit better, then yes, we would like to see it. If it is related to the urban, it is, you know, sort of the best. But we understand that you may not have worked on the urban before you come here. So as long as it sort of highlights your abilities, your way of thinking, then that works for us. So okay, so someone has asked that what if I've already submitted my application, would want to reapply at the end of these seminars that will give me more information about the program, which I wasn't aware of when I applied the first time. I would not recommend that, to be very honest. These webinars are only meant to be, you know, sort of supplementary information. All this information is already available on our website and our FAQs. If we find, I mean, we've actually dealt with this problem in previous year where there have been multiple applications from people, and frankly, the system is not able to tell them apart. So sometimes those applications don't get the, like, you know, the application that you think is the best may not be the one that the system sort of pulls up because of the repetition of names, etc. So it is better to apply once. Please apply, think through it, do your essays properly, you know, show a friend to read through it, just be like 100% sure, then apply. None of the information in the webinars is actually additional to what's there on the website. It just helps to kind of talk about it. But if you have applied, I would, you know, suggest to sort of stay with that. There is one more question about the work sample. With respect to the work sample, it says there's a 5 MB upload limit. I plan on submitting a video that I produced and want to know if I can share a YouTube link. It's possible to share a YouTube link. However, if it is a very, very long, like I have had people send sort of, you know, 30-minute, 45-minute kind of projects as well. And frankly, it's not possible to actually sit through very, very long videos. So if it is a short video and it's simply a heavy file and therefore you want to send us a link, that works well. But please, like, work with the admission committee as well. You know, so if it's, you know, showcase your work, but help us to sort of showcase, to be able to kind of, you know, actually sort of look through it and make our assessment. So something that's a shorter video would definitely work, but I would not recommend it. Like, the 5 MB limit is there for a reason. Okay, so I'm going to take another question. Did we miss someone? No. This is it. The other one. Okay. So here's another question. I'm a pure science student with a major in earth and environmental sciences with a minor in mathematics. I'm mainly interested in data science, but at the same time, sustainable science fascinates me. Do you think UFP will help me to understand the broader set of data associated with sustainable sciences? So yes, at IIHS we actually do a lot of, I mean, so take a look. What would be really helpful is go onto the IIHS website and take a look at some of the work that we have done. Working on, a lot of the work is actually on climate science, sustainable practices. We do work a lot with data in the building. There has to be, so I think there is a connect, but what you need to do is sort of figure out from the work that we've done already is how much we will be able to help you with what you're looking for from the program, right? My sense from what you have written right now, I think would fit well with some of the work that we have, some of the people that we have in the building, some of the faculty who work on such issues here. But since I am not fully clear from your question about the, like when you say sustainable science, like what are some of the applications that you're looking at in terms of sustainable science? What is exactly what you mean by sustainable science? So for that, I would recommend, I would advise you go take a look at some of our work. Our project details are all there on our website. If you see a connect, in terms of the ways in which we have materialized in the kinds of places, the kind of questions that we've picked up as a part of the sustainable science frame, if that appeals to you, then yes, the UFP will help you, right? If those questions are different from what you're looking for, then I would suggest that, it would not be that great a fit. There's a question about the date of commencement of the fellowship. The fellowship will start in the week of the 15th of August, right? So it's that week. It's basically the third week of August that it will start. Can we show college-related works? Yes, you can definitely show college-related works. Like I said, it's not where you did the work that we are interested in. It is what you did as a part of the work, what it reveals about your interests, your abilities. That's what we're kind of looking for. So college-related work, definitely, not a problem. I'll take the next question. I want to do masters in urban design and real estate. How can this fellowship help me? So this fellowship is not meant to be a bridge program to sort of, to a master's. We are actually looking for people who will engage with these questions as a part of the fellowship itself, and then maybe go out and work for a little while, and then they may continue into a master's into those programs if required. That said, I think the question is really with you, that if you want to apply for a master's, which is, real estate and, can we scroll back up to that one? Urban design and real estate, then my suggestion would be, why would you not apply to the master's directly? I mean, if the fellowship has to make sense to you. There's a certain interdisciplinarity that we are trying to bring in through the fellowship. There's a mix of theory and practice. There is a mix of a lot of different people from different disciplinary backgrounds in the class. If those are things that you're looking for, then apply for the fellowship. If you're looking for a master's in a particular thing, then I would suggest, apply to that master's. So there's something about the fellowship itself which I imagine should appeal to you if you're going to, apply to it. It cannot be a bridge to something else.
Should I move on to the next question?
Yeah. So, okay. So the next question is, I'm just getting done with my bachelor's and will be graduating in May. I have 3 to 4 months of work experience. Can I still be considered for the fellowship program? Absolutely. So in our class, in the cohort that we have sort of put together in the last 3 years, just to give you a sense, about half of the class, comes from doing a bachelor's in some discipline or the other, with a certain amount of experience, but not a lot of experience. Another 30% of the class comes with a master's, and again some level of experience, and about 20% of the class comes with an extensive amount of work experience. So you fit very well into the profile of what we're looking for in the fellowship, so please do apply. Okay, the next question is, I would like to submit a photo essay / maps as my work sample. Then what format is recommended as PDF work? PDF works fine. There is a size limit, as you know, there's a 5 MB size limit. So take a look at that. But yeah, PDF works fine. Okay, I'm going to take the next question. My question is regarding the future placements after the fellowship program. Could you elaborate a bit on the kind of specific agencies or companies that IIHS helps with? Okay, so again, I would say that take a look at our website. We have the names of a lot of the organizations that students did their internships with, and many of them, they have gone on to like full placements in those organizations itself. Like I said, it's a mix of public and private and NGOs and research organizations and think tanks, etc. The way that we work with the placements, okay, is for the internship placements, we handhold you through the entire process. So for example, this year, we had approximately 120 organizations who we work closely with as IIHS, which was given as a long list to the fellows to choose from to apply for their internships, right? So that's our, so we help you with sort of our network, our kind of organizational network that there is. We, however, do not have a formal placements program after the internship process. However, informally, we advise you through the process. When the internship placements are happening, we actually walk you through the process of how to go about selecting an organization. So the internship placements is actually sort of a soft placement exercise that we do with you for you to understand how to navigate the space and hopefully set you up. So a lot of people, like I said, convert their internships into full-time jobs. So that's again like something that there is a lot that also depends on you and the kind of work that you do with these organizations. And that the organizations, many of the organizations are happy to convert them into full-time placements because of, you know, sort of the great enthusiasm and diligence with which people work when their internships are going on. It also sort of opens up a whole set of networks of other organizations in the space. And we advise you through the process. So we don't have a formal placements process after your internships, but we do offer you informal advice, and you get an entry into the networks that we're already working with during the internship process. So there's a kind of a soft placement trajectory that there is. And I would advise, take a look at our website, like the UFP website, and there's a lot of details about the kind of organizations that people have gone on with their logos and stuff. So I mean, that's okay. So I'll take the next question. I had completed my undergraduate course in urban planning. Since I had already been taught on this subject, can you please explain how this program would help me in further expanding my knowledge? Thank you. Okay, so we have had people with bachelor's in planning come through to the fellowship. And a lot of, I mean, most of them, I would say actually all of them have, you know, you can also go and please take a look at the testimonials of our fellows from past years. And you will find the testimonials of the people who've done planning in their bachelor's before they came here. The thing that they kind of gain from this fellowship is going back to what I said, that a planning program often speaks about the planner as sort of the urban manager, right? Or someone who's going to bring a lot of different disciplines around the same table and be involved with sort of working with them to create a plan or sort of an urban intervention. The thing is that in a lot of planning programs, that the cohort is often not as representative of these disciplinary backgrounds as sort of the philosophy in the planning program is. So what you get here is really sort of very actively living through the process and learning from the process of multidisciplinarity. We also push you a lot to sort of start thinking about things as diverse as, you know, economics and sustainability, like across, like I said, social identity. There are a lot of people who come with planning backgrounds who have never thought about social differentiation in our cities. In terms of caste, class, community, language, regional diversity kinds of questions. And yet it is something that all our cities are completely structured by. So when you do a planning intervention, these are things that are very important to kind of be aware of and be able to respond to and learn that, you know, what kind of planning mechanisms are there for being able to bring voice from a lot of these kinds of communities. So the program sort of expands the disciplinary backgrounds, the kinds of things that you've thought about. We don't give you solutions. We ask you to sort of think. We ask you to unpack the complexities and engage with the complexities rather than sort of pushing them away. So, so yeah, but I would like, if my saying it is one thing, but I think much more important is to probably go and hear the testimonials of some of the other folks who have come from planning backgrounds into the fellowship and what they have to say about the program, right? So I think that will be much more useful. I am going to skip the next question because the person seems to be offline. I'll move to the next one. Could the work that we have done in urban space be our experience in that area from another country and not specific to India? Sure, that's absolutely okay. We don't have an issue with, you know, sort of the geographic location that you're speaking to, but we do like to kind of see a place-led sensibility when you write. So wherever you're writing from, if there is a contextual place-based sensibility that we see in your writing, that's what we're looking for. It doesn't need to be specific to India. I'm going to move to the next question. This is related to the submission of the work samples. I've been working as an architect on affordable housing and infrastructure in the rural sector. I'm looking to transition to the urban, so this would be this work. So is this work relevant for the application? Absolutely. This work is definitely relevant in terms of your application. What my suggestion would be is that don't just submit the work. Submit the work and tell us your reflections, the self-reflections you had while working on it. What were some of the questions that you asked? What were some of the challenges that you had while working on the project? Because what we're looking for is a cohort of people who ask questions, who are aware of what they do. They are self-reflexive. So the work itself seems absolutely relevant, but what would make it brilliant is if you would also add a little bit of a section of your self-reflection about working in that sector for when you did it. I'll move to the next question. Is there a preference given to postgraduate applicants over graduates? Since most of the testimonials on your website are from people who have joined UFP after their post-graduation. No, not at all. Like I said, half the class comes to us with a bachelor's degree. What you need to sort of see actually is we have something called the IIHS YouTube channel, right? And the IIHS YouTube channel has testimonials from everybody in the class. So we had, like, for example, 35 fellows last year. All 35 fellows have given their testimonials. So please go ahead and take a look at our, you know, sort of go into the IIHS channel, the IIHS YouTube channel, rather than just looking at our website and the ones that are there on the website. But like I said, half the class comes with only a bachelor's, about 30% comes with a master's, and about 20% comes with a lot of work experience. So, you know, that's not the preference for postgraduates is not true for the fellowship. I'll take the next question. How would this fellowship open my opportunities to becoming a master's in disaster management? Please help me relate. Are you looking to do, I mean, I know you can't answer back, but what I'm reading from this question is that you want to do a master's in disaster management. Then my sense is that you should apply. Like I replied to someone before this as well, that if you're looking for a particular kind of a master's, then you should apply for the master's itself. Right? I mean, if you're applying for the fellowship, you should apply for what the fellowship is about, not as a fellowship to a bridge to something else. Right? There is a lot of work that IIHS does on disaster management, as you probably are aware, across our projects and stuff like that. And fellows have had an opportunity to work on live projects, which may include disaster management sector projects as well. But the fellowship itself has sort of an internal logic, and we want people to get the fellowship experience. I mean, they're coming in, we want people to come in for the fellowship for the different kinds of aspects of the that is very unique to the fellowship. Right? So those are the people we're looking for. Like I said, that it's not the best fit if you're looking at the fellowship to bridge do a master's program in some other topic. So, you know, just sort of, I hope that answers question. Yeah, I'll take the next one. During my BS/MS, I published a research paper which deals with data science. Just one second. Published a research paper which deals with data science and Earth systems. Should I submit this as a sample of work? My doubt is, don't you think it will be way too specific and not general? That may be, especially if it is a highly technical paper. If you can sort of write a note that helps to sort of help us understand how you think that you will transition from or apply that kind of a technical approach or a technical knowledge to why you want to do the fellowship, I think then you can submit this as a sample of work. But just sort of out of context, something that is highly technical and data science in a topic that is not entirely urban would be hard. It would be sort of hard to sort of see how that would you know, sort of add to the application or add to the fitment that you have to the program. So help us understand the fitment. That will be my larger question. Then as a work sample, it's fine. But help us understand the fitment in terms of how you will help translate that into what the fellowship is about, and then it works. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next question. Does this fellowship work closely with UDRI? There is no, I mean, we know people at UDRI. UDRI folks know us. But no, this fellowship is not about working closely with UDRI in any way. Is this fellowship useful for civil engineers? Absolutely. We've had many people with civil engineering backgrounds, and in many ways they have been some of our most fun fellows that have come in. You have to have an interest in the urban. You have to have an interest in sort of, you have to have spent some time thinking of how you as a civil engineer would like to intervene in the urban. What are some of the kinds of things in the urban that you can bring to, you know, as a civil engineer? And if you can help us understand that, then absolutely. Like I said, some of our sort of most, not just fun, but like dedicated, really on top of the game kind of fellows have been civil engineers. So, you know, I look forward to seeing your application. I'm going to take the next question. I'm a process engineer, MSc, with a specialization in environmental processes based in Germany. Most of the work is data collection from sites, lab testing, downstreaming, and report based with the research organizations. I want to move to urban environmental challenges or wastewater and sewage. Do I fit in this fellowship program? Yes, if that is the direction in which you want to take your work. If it is if you want your future work to be in urban environmental challenges or wastewater and sewage, then absolutely. Think about how you will, again, you know, sort of use your past disciplinary training to you know, sort of which part of it is going to help you move into this kind of new field that you're looking for. You will also be looking for new skills, but absolutely, if you see your future in the direction of urban environmental challenges, then I would say please apply to the program. Is it mandatory to stay in the IIHS campus? So this question is actually in two parts. Like I said, all our classes in the first 8 months of the program will be in our IIHS campus at Bangalore. So for, you know, for the classes, you actually have to be on the campus for that. If you're asking about whether you have to stay in the residential facilities, which is not on campus, it is, you know, some 4 or 5 kilometers away from we are a city campus, so it's basically a building, and the classes and everything is in the same building. The residential facilities are about 4 or 5 kilometers away from this building, and you don't have, I mean, you get that for free if you get admission. But if you don't want to take it, that's fine. You can, you know, make your own arrangements. It's not mandatory to take our residential facilities. It's there for free. So, I mean, but it's not mandatory. I'll take the next question. I am an architect, just completing my master's in urban planning with interests such as video communication, design, urban conservation, which is my master's thesis right now. Will Urban Fellows help me working on some of these factors or more? Yes, please apply. We have, like I said, we do a lot of work integrating the academic with other ways of urban practice, which includes like all of these things. Like I said, we have a media lab, a word lab, we have various public events like City Scripts and Urban Lens. So we are very interested in, sort of speaking about the urban and speaking to the urban over and beyond text. So communications, design, videos, media, all of those are really this thing we would, and we currently, one of our fellows is presently an artist in residence. They graduated from Sudeshna. Their work is in art practice, and I think they have had like a really good experience as part of the fellows. You will be speaking to them. I think they have signed up for one of the webinars, so you can have a longer chat with her. Her name is Gauri Nagpal, so she's there for one of the webinar sessions. But please, we welcome people who come from like different kinds of practice backgrounds. Will this program help me get a better cohesive understanding between disciplines, urban planning and development studies in the Indian context? Absolutely. I mean, that's quite central to what we try and sort of link. So these kinds of interconnections, asking the questions in more complex sorts of ways in which these different nuances are coming together. The challenge is that these different kinds of fields and disciplines are willing to see within their disciplinary backgrounds what happens when you put them together. That's a very, very key part of what we push you to do as a part of the fellowship, so please apply. Okay, and the next question is, I'm interested in highlighting urban issues through social media and finding various perspectives through ethnographic research as well. Since I've worked as a writer and social media executive for a while, would I be considered? Absolutely, please apply. These are all like the kinds of diversities that we're looking for. Please, I mean, yeah, your application will be very welcome, please apply. Next question is, if the writing sample is not necessarily about urban problems, but if I'm able to connect it with urban problems, would that be okay? I'm not really sure exactly what the details are, but yeah, it sounds fine what you've said. I mean, if you can kind of relate it, you can help us understand how it helps you understand urban problems, then yes, we would like to read that.
I think this question is a repeat from the earlier one.
Yes, okay. So I'll take the next question. In college, my elective is urban planning and transportation. Is this useful in the fellowship? Yes, these are both questions that we will discuss as a part of the fellowship, as part of the content. So it is definitely relevant. The next question is, I come from a humanities and sociology background and I've worked as a writer. This is also a repeat.
Yeah, I think she sent a question twice.
Okay, we've read through this question.
Yeah, I think
okay, so we have, so we have completed all the questions. If there are more questions, let me know. We'll give it another minute or so.
Yeah.
In case there are some questions, I'll take those. Otherwise, please sign in for tomorrow's webinar. No, not tomorrow, Thursday's webinar. We close. I'm studying psychology as one of my subjects in the undergraduate course. I would like to know how aspects of this can be analyzed in the fellowship. We did have somebody, no, not as a part of the fellowship, but we have worked with students who have tried to sort of integrate psychology as a way of sort of understanding urban spaces and built form in the urban, especially like public spaces. There is a certain kind of a connect, I think that there is between the two topics, but it is a specific connect. It is something that, I think it's more of a question to you about, are you interested in sort of applying this to the urban? And if so, then how? If you have those ideas, there is no bar on having psychology as an undergraduate degree to applying for the fellowship. But there has to be a good reason why you want to do an urban fellowship. So help us understand that, how you would sort of bring the kind of questions that you've asked as a psychology undergraduate to the field of urban development, or urban spaces, or how you understand urban spaces, how we design urban spaces. Then yes, I think that would be very relevant. So with that, I think we're going to close today's session. Okay, there is one more question. I think people are coming in with the questions of the I'm looking for a transition from a career from civil engineering to urban planning. And do you think having no experience in the urban sector will affect my application? So having no experience is not a problem. But what we do want to know is that, are you concerned about urban issues? Have you thought about it? Do you read about it? Like, do you open up the newspaper and sort of, does your eye sort of go to the various kinds of urban issues that there is? So help us understand that. Like, why do you want to transition from civil engineering to urban planning? Why? So help us understand that. Having no experience in the urban is not a bar. That's what the fellowship is about, to help people transition if they are looking to transition. But we need to understand, like, it's not simply sort of a, we need to know the reasons why you want to transition, not that, oh, I'm bored of this and that's why I want to do that now. I mean, I have actually read applications that have said things like that, which is why I say it. I'm not sort of targeting that at any particular person, but that's not a good enough reason. That, I mean, it has to be something credible. It has to be something that concerns you, or something that motivates you to sort of transition from civil engineering to urban planning. Help us understand that, and that would be great. We'd love to read that. People have done that. Like, we've had fellows who have made those kinds of transitions, who have come to us for the fellowship. So, absolutely. Is there a word count limit for the essays? How should both of the drafts distinguish? These are all questions that are there in the application form, so please take a look at that. There is a very clear sort of mention of the word limit for both the essays. So take a look at the application form and follow the instructions that are there.
Thank you everyone for joining in today. We hope you're going to come for the rest of the webinars as well, because we have faculty who will be speaking on the different elements of the UFP, the commons, electives, projects, internships, skill labs, practica. So do join in for all of those. You want to take the last question?
No, it's fine. I think we just reached the time limit.
Yeah, I think it's 6 o'clock, so we need to close. But all of this is available on our website in the FAQ section, which is very, very detailed. If you have any queries, you can also write into us at ufp.info@ihs.ac.in.
That email address is there on the website as well, so take a look.
We also have 2 contact numbers that you can call on, and we have people manning the phone from 10 to 6 p.m. every day, I think, starting. Actually, it's already started, so you can call in with your queries. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see you all on Thursday.
All right. It was lovely talking to you all. Good luck with the applications.
Please send them in before 18th of April, well before time, and not at 11:59.
Please, because then if it doesn't get through, then it's really nothing that we can do about it. Then it's out, it's out. Don't wait till the last minute. Internet crash, computers crash, all kinds of things happen at the last minute.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, bye.